on the surface, the topic of celebrating this holiday or not, as far as should Christians do it. I've even heard atheists talk about should atheists do it, and so on the surface it seems very benign, very, very trivial. But when you dig deep, it's something much more sinister underneath. So let me tell you who I am. My name is Dr. Life, and I went through a life-changing experience after taking a vow to be all things to all people and be a first responder and sacrifice myself, because the word says present yourselves as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. So I've been doing my reasonable service since 1995.
We must not leave. That's my hospital, for God's sake. We must not leave. Let me go, Samuel.
We're in a race, Colonel, and the prize is nothing less than the continent of Africa. Our competitors are the Germans and the French. We are ahead, and we will stay ahead, provided you do what I've hired you to do. Build a bridge across the River Savo and be finished in 5 months.
A philosopher named George Santayana said, "Those who forget history are condemned to repeat it." Those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. And those who deny history, there's a lesson to be learned in the way that European descendants of today explain the past involvement in slavery. And the lesson for Christians is you do the same thing when it comes to these traditional holidays that you can't prove in the Word of God, but because you've never come to grips with how in the past your ancestors latched on to these traditions without having a base or a foundation in the Word of God, and because you don't want to admit that fact, you just hold on to the tradition and you just deny. But I have great news. Once I give you this information, if you take this information and actually admit the fact that the facts are what they are, and you treat it that way, there are some principles that allow me to do currently what the Africans did in Savo. The Africans didn't participate because they understood that that was the lion's terrain and they were devourers and they were going to attack. And besides being known as Dr. Life, I'm also known as R.P.G, the Ghost in the Darkness, for tracking down the devourer. And I'm going to give you the two principles. It's a principle of repetition and enlargement. Principle of repetition and enlargement. All right. It's based on the two texts that went across the screen. It says, what has been will be again. And what shall be done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Everything that happens has already happened before. So if you want to track and see where the devourer will attack, you just have to look in past history and look how he has been attacking. the followers of Christ, and he will continue his attacks. So now you can prepare and be sitting there waiting on him and capturing him. All right, the principle of repetition and enlargement. Everything that has happened in the past will happen again in the future on a larger scale. Just as it was, listen up, just as it was in the days of Noah, so also will it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. People were eating and drinking, marrying and being given in marriage, celebrating Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and all of these pagan holidays, and marrying and being given in marriage. Now this is something that y'all need to think about. The Creator himself, Michael Emmanuel, Jesus Christ, presided over the very first marriage between Adam and Eve, a man and a woman, in the Garden of Eden. And then Adam and Eve's children married and had children. And so it says in the days of Noah, they were marrying and giving in marriage. Noah was like 12 generations down from Adam. So what he's telling you is there was a new kind of marriage that they were engaging in. A marriage between same-sex individuals was the marriage that he's talking about. They were marrying and giving in marriage. There was a new marriage is what he's saying. Something that I did not authorize, and was part of the reason why I told Noah that your generation is so wicked, but you are perfect in your generation, so I'm going to send a flood. So in verse 28 it says, it was the same in the days of Lot. In the days of Lot, we know Lot lived in Sodom and Gomorrah. Once again, we have a nation that was a nation of sodomites, same-sex couples. So once again, he's telling you that the coming of the Son of Man, he said it's gonna, the conditions around when I'm going to come back, the world is going to devolve back into the same things that were happening during the time of days of Noah. They were marrying and giving in marriage, and now he goes from Noah and he goes to Lot. He said people were eating and drinking, buying and selling. What happens during the Christmas holiday? People are eating and drinking. They're all concerned about the eating and drinking, and they're marrying and being given in marriage. These, of course, in the days of Sodom, that's a same-sex marriage. In the days of Noah, that's a different marriage than the one that he gave in the beginning. He said these are all the signs. And so I'm telling you how I use the principle of repetition and enlargement to know and understand that we have a roaring lion that's seeking whom he may devour. And then the other text said that woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because he's come down to you and he knows he has a short time. So instead of eating and drinking and being merry, I was using the principle of repetition and enlargement to stalk and track the devourer before he destroys all of our families that we've invested in, all of these children across the country that we've invested in for the past 21 years to save them and introduce them and give them access to abundant life. So that's what this is about. So I have good news. I'm here to tell you that you can use the principle of repetition and enlargement to trap the devourer. But let me show you how dire the situation is. Let me show you just how bad it is while you're engaging in festivities, and let me show you what the devourer is doing. First, let me issue a challenge. I told you my name was Dr. Life. But when I went through this event, not only did God reveal this was a life or death event, and it could have gone either way. Most people who go through this and have the aneurysm that I had never survive it. But it was revealed to me that my work wasn't finished. I had a specific purpose and a message to give. And this is part of the message. Revealing the devourer and revealing what the devourer wants. And then tracking him down, capturing the devourer, and letting you know what period you live in, where at in the stream of time you are. You are living in Revelation chapter 7 right now. Revelation chapter 7 is the time period you're living in. And I was given a new name. Armageddon the Mede. Armageddon the Mede means the final battle. And I was given a title, the wisest man alive. I was given a title, the wisest man alive, because it was revealed to me that when I give this message as a first responder to save lives, I'm also to throw down the challenge, because there are some in our society who work for the dragon, Satan, the devil, who are his hired hands in devouring you and getting you to be deceived. He has agents that he works through to deceive those who want to follow the master. And they call themselves the enlightened ones. They call themselves, they go by a title, the 1,000 points of light. So I'm going to give you this information as the wisest man alive, because they aren't enlightened, they're in darkness. And so I'm going to challenge anybody to get free. Test the principle of repetition and enlargement. Test it in your life. Not only will I prove that I'm the wisest man alive based on the information that I'm revealing to you, but you then will become the wisest man or woman alive, because you will have the same knowledge that's sitting right there in the Word of God. This isn't anything new. There's nothing new under the sun. Just nobody is telling it to you. And now I'll give you the message. Now, let me show you who the devourer is.
I'm here in Rome today for what is the final moments of the Year of Mercy, which is culminating with Pope Francis closing this gigantic door, and he's actually got millions and millions of pilgrims over the last year travelling to Rome to come and walk through this door. But today it's being closed. Maybe symbolic, closing the door of mercy. What does that mean?
Do you know what closing the door of mercy means? Every human being must know when the door of mercy is closed on you. That's the same door that got closed on the ark and only 8 people were inside. That's the same door that got closed on Sodom and Gomorrah.
As he's doing with many things in the Catholic Church, he's actually changed it now. Churches across the whole world have their own little doors which have been closed, and this is the final moments in Rome, the last door of mercy to be closed. I would hope that the mercy would continue, that this doesn't somehow represent symbolically the end of mercy in some way, but there we go.
So you ask, why would the self-proclaimed leader of spirituality in the whole world, and definitely the leader of all Christianity, want to close the door of mercy? Well, I gave you the principle of repetition and enlargement. Every time Satan gets the whole world to go astray, the door of mercy closes. I love my brother from around Saturn's eye, but he's guessing, and there's no need to guess. You have access to the wisest man alive. Even my sons on the screen, the divine shadow and mystery, they both know that that is Belial. That's Belial, a Gnostic, pagan deity. Now remember the text that we read in Luke, where the master warned that the days before I come back a second time are going to be just like the days of Noah, just like the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. Just imagine, the times we live in right now are just like the days of Noah. Marrying and giving in marriage and all caught up in this Christmas festivities and all of these pagan holidays. Now just imagine if you are one of those, let's say 8 billion who were outside of the ark when that door of mercy closed. Just imagine. That's where he has you right now. He's transforming into one of his many pagan deities. Now ask yourself, if the Christmas holiday, which it did, came out of this system, does it have anything to do with Christ? When this is the Antichrist system that the Bible talks about in Revelation 13. And Revelation 13 says the whole world will wander after the beast. And what he is doing right now, he is saying, yes, I am the hired hand of the dragon. Yes, once again, I have got all of God's children to go astray. I have gotten all of God's children once again to acknowledge my authority over God's authority and his commandments, who created them. And now I want to close the door of probation on them. I want to slam the door shut so that they receive the wages of sin for themselves instead of my master Azazel.
What is going on?
I want to transfer their sin to their head instead of my master Azazel, the scapegoat who is supposed to pay for their sins.
What does this mean?
I'm closing the door, hoping that he will rain down the flood right now because they're so wicked. I'm hoping that he will rain down the fire on them like on Sodom and Gomorrah right now as I close this door. He closed the door of probation on the Gentiles. Just like in 70 AD, the door of probation closed on the Jews when Rome destroyed the city. And unless you want to die for your own sins, then you got to come out of Babylon. And you say, well, how am I still in Babylon? If you have anything that's a part of this system told you, God said, have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images or any likeness of anything in the heavens above or in the earth beneath. And this system said, no, we worship Peter, we worship relics, we bow down to Mary, and that's how you got Christmas.
New
one of the 4 pagan deities that you celebrate on December 25th is Osiris. Osiris is the first pagan deity we're going to deal with.
Let's talk about the date of December 25th, first of all. You know, many non-believers are more than happy to point out that December 25th is not the historical birth of Jesus, and that this date is found nowhere in Scripture. They'll also enthusiastically go on to claim that this really is in fact the long celebrated birthday of numerous heathen sun gods. You know, in order to accurately represent the one true God of the Scriptures, we need to be able to be intellectually honest and take a real careful look at the historical and scriptural facts concerning Christmas. The high day of ancient sun worship historically occurred every December 25th, when the sun displayed its unconquerability, when it began to rise higher in the sky following the winter solstice. Hence, December 25th was celebrated as the sun's birthday. This pagan religious practice was the first historical observance of December 25th as being a holy day. So we can go back to the beginning of the story and take a look at really the first Christmas. The story, a lot of people don't realize it's a lot older than we think, actually begins over 4,000 years ago in the land of Shinar, also called Babylon.
Remember, I'm just going to show you Osiris in this one. The first 3 I'm going to do are 3 deities, but the last one is the 4th one that's found in the Bible. When Christ talks about he hates the deeds of the Nicolaitans. Watch all 4 series. This is Osirus first. There are 3 more after this one.
According to the book, considered by many historians to have been the first sun god upon which all the other sun god legends were based upon, this Nimrod story. After God destroyed the Tower of Babel, Nimrod was, according to a lot of legends, was killed by Noah's son Shem. In his body was castrated, and his parts were spread all across the land of Shinar. After Nimrod's death, his widowed mother-wife, so-called Semiramis, she claimed that she had become impregnated by the rays of the sun. And later, that next December 25th, baby Tammuz was born. Baby Tammuz is in the scriptures a lot of places too. They're worshiping baby Tammuz, weeping for baby Tammuz, and God didn't like that too much. As you know, he was born again as the reincarnated sun god of Nimrod. Semiramis also claimed that a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead stump, which symbolized the re-erection of the new penis of Nimrod, or in other words, the springing forth of new life. You know, on each anniversary of his birth, every December 25th, Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it. That's where a lot of the Yule log comes from that they'd throw in the fire, and then the next day it would be re-erected as the full tree, and the serpent was wrapped around it. That's where that comes from, that story of Nimrod. In Egypt, after God confounded the languages at the Tower of Babel, the story of Nimrod, Semiramis, and baby Tammuz was spread across the earth in over 70 languages. In Egypt, Horus, the son of Isis, the Egyptian title for the Queen of Heaven, was born at this very same time of December 25th. In accordance with the story of Nimrod, ancient Egyptians used to bring trees into their homes for their winter solstice festivals, in which children placed gifts at the bottom, you know, and Sirius, the dog star, really a representation of Anubis, was placed at the top of the tree. The Egyptians even dipped balls in gold and silver. They'd cut testicles off animals or sacrifices, and they'd hang them from their trees. It represented the testicles of their sun god Ra, like a fertility kind of deal. One of the early roots of the modern Christmas character Santa Claus was actually the god Molech, or Chemosh. Every December 25th on the ancient calendar, this is recorded in the Bible too, a public child mass or sacrifice was held. The head priest would stoke this iron image of the enthroned Molech with wood and burning pitch, and they'd turn it into this giant glowing red furnace. And then the people, they'd take and make a long list of the desires that they wanted, and they'd recite them to their god of prosperity, just before they put their infant children into the red-hot lap of the glowing red god. And he was wearing a Phrygian cap, too, just like Santa Claus, that Phrygian cap. That was one of the caps on the statues that they had there, too. A very interesting similarity. That's actually the roots of the Santa Claus character. Kind of sick, the priests would interpret revelations through the screaming of the burning babies. So they'd get these revelations from their god through the screams of these babies.
I know you want to say that sounds too far-fetched, that's something that only happened way back in the day. In these modern times, no one would ever think of sacrificing a baby or burning a baby to a pagan god. But you would be incorrect. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you to this very day some very, very powerful people. And I'm not talking about pagans here. I'm talking about individuals who claim to be born-again Christians. Yes, you heard me. Born-again Christians, which worships the same Molech. I'm going to show it to you.
I've spoken of 1,000 points of light, of all the community organizations that are spread like stars throughout the nation doing good. We will work hand in hand, encouraging, sometimes leading, sometimes being led, rewarding. We will work on this in the White House, in the cabinet agencies.
What's interesting is that term, 1,000 points of light, is actually a Masonic term. And what you're seeing here is an actual Masonic symbol. And you see the compass actually is the base of the pyramid that we looked at on their seal. You see the capstone at the top, the all-seeing eye, and the illumination coming out of it. Because what it actually means is to reach the final illumination of man. If you will study the Masonic order, one of their main goals, or one of the main goals for a Mason to reach, is that final illumination, where you can become a god. And no wonder, because the god of the Masonic order is Lucifer. Watch this. Lucifer is the god of the Masonic order. In a book written by Bishop Albert Pike, let me tell you who he is. He is the man who is the forefather of Freemasonry. He is the man who brought Freemasonry over to the United States from Wales. It's called Morals and Dogmas of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, page 304. It says, Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light, and with its splendors intolerable, blinds feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? And then he says, doubt it not. On page 321, he says, yes, Lucifer is God. So there you have it. And what he's actually referring to is a global Luciferian network.
All of you parents who are using your children as an excuse to violate God's law and worship other gods, have other gods before him, and then teaching your kids to do it. This is what your problem is. And this is what Jesus Christ said should happen. Let's stay on the kids. Here you go. Therefore, Whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. It's all about the children. That's the only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. That's the only reason I've been doing what I've been doing for 21 years, is because the enemy, when the minute God said, be fruitful and multiply to Adam and Eve, the enemy put a contract out on the children. And Cain took the very first contract. And Caesars and the popes are the descendants of Cain who have renewed that contract every time. Genesis chapter 9. God's covenant with Noah. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, be fruitful and there goes be fruitful and multiply again, have children in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth. You gotta understand, God was saying, I'm going to replace the 1/3 fallen beings who followed that clown Lucifer and got cast out. So have children. So Lucifer wants to kill any children following God. And then God warns about idolatry. Your Christmas holidays. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial? Remember when I showed y'all that pitch, the Pope closing the door of mercy, and he had the picture of Jesus Christ with the nails in his hands and the 3 eyes in his head, and the Christian who was doing the film said he didn't know what it was. That was Belial. That's who Belial is. Belial, I'll do a whole nother video on it. It's too long. That's Belial. And Christ said, what harmony is there between Christ and Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with the infidel? This is the infidel. This is the infidel. Christianity. That been handed down to you through Roman Catholicism. This is the infidel. The word keeps telling y'all. Everything that the word says not to do, he has fulfilled because he has to. It is the beast system. It has to fulfill. When God spoke it into existence, everything that he says about the beast system has to be fulfilled to the T, because it's the word of God. When he speaks, it's in existence. Now look, he told you, Matthew chapter 2, 23, Matthew 23:9, and do not call anyone on earth Father, for you have one Father, and he is in heaven. What do they call Roman Catholic priests? What do they call them? Father. He said, don't call anyone on earth Father. And then the United States of America, you bring him here and you let him stand up in Congress? That's why the door got closed. The door of mercy. It was closed on the Gentiles, not on God's children. This is the ultimate for parents. This is the ultimate for parents. Listen. So remember that text I read about anyone who causes these little ones to be deceived who believe in me. A millstone should be tied around their neck and they should be thrown into the depths of the sea. But then look what Revelation 18 says about the beast system, who is the Roman Catholic system and all of Christianity, because every church, every Protestant church, every every non-denominational, or every church that worships on Sunday, you got it from them. Sunday worship is an institution exclusively given to you by Roman Catholicism on purpose to cause you, just like you're doing with Christmas, to cause you to be in violation of God's law and try and justify it. Listen, God is not playing with his children because he put his blueprint into the children. His example was a blueprint of how to come and walk, and Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. His blueprint is in the life of a child. But Satan has given you a counterfeit and has you trapped in Babylon. Has you worshiping the beast. Has you fornicating with Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots. He's put a counterfeit system in place because Christianity is the last frontier. Well, followers of Christ, not Christianity. Followers of Christ. The whole world was already worshiping Baal. He already had everybody worshiping Baal. So then when Christ comes and he shows his followers the way, the only thing to attack and destroy is the way. And God said, okay, if y'all deceive my children, it would be better for you to be thrown in the depths of the sea. And now look what he says about Babylon. Remember, he said it would be better to have a millstone tied around your neck. So Revelation 18:21 says, then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea and said, with such violence, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down and never to be found again. So now you guys understand why Pope Francis closed the door of mercy. Because he has the whole world deceived, and he knows he took the contract and he completed his job. And if it wasn't for the mercy and the grace of God found in Revelation chapter 7, where God says, I'm going to hold back the four winds of strife and call my children out of Babylon. This is that call. You still have an opportunity. The door of mercy is not closed on you. But if you don't heed that call, if you don't come out of Babylon right now, this is what you're in store for. Once again, Genesis 9. He was talking to Noah. And for your lifeblood, for your blood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal and from every human being also. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Whoever sheds human blood, their blood shall be shed. In America, every American, you have two problems with this blood audit that is happening right now. We're doing the blood audit. The problem is Roman Catholicism took the contract, and the Jews took the black magic contract, right? And they've been shedding blood since they crucified Christ together, the Romans and the Jews. We have no God but Caesar. That's what they said. Give us Barabbas. We have no God but Caesar. And they persecuted Peter and Paul and everybody. Okay, so when you come out of this system And then you come to the United States of America. All of the Protestants came to the United States of America. And then what did they do? They put a contract out on the children of the United States of America. The only place that God had created where you could worship, you could have access to the Bible freely. You could worship and study freely. No, a separation of church and state, so Roman Catholicism couldn't do like they were doing in Europe and burn you at the stake for reading the Word of God. And then Protestants come here, implement Rome's system undercover through the secret society of Freemasonry and the Skull and Bones and all of that. And the system that you have in place now is on autopilot. And so now, because the children are suffering the effects of the system that was put in place hundreds of years ago, now everybody wants to say, oh, I don't have nothing to do with it. You capitalizing off the system. You benefiting from the system. Blood is on your hands. Unless you tear down and destroy the system, you're a part of the system. And you're failing the blood audit. Your second problem is you're robbing God. And so now he's had you rob God. And because you've robbed God, you've also buried your talent in the sand. Your seed is one of those talents that he said, all right, take it and multiply it and flip it in my service. So you've buried your talent. And what happens to the person who buries the talent? Oh yeah, it's taken from them. That's right. I've been coming and getting your seeds and saving your seeds and rescuing your seeds. He takes the talent from one and he gave it to the other one who is duplicating and multiplying and doubling it. And the other one is cast out where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. You know why? You know why you got to be cast out? Because God said, to whom much is given, much is required. To whom much is given, much is required. What nation in the world has been given more than the United States of America? What nation in the world has been given more blessings by the Creator? Inalienable rights. The Declaration of Independence says there is only one Creator. The Pope and Christians and the world don't even believe in creation. Y'all all believe in evolution. I mean, go to any of your schools. Y'all all believe in evolution. It's a masquerade, y'all. I don't know how y'all got tricked into this masquerade. If you get on TV, you got these people on the news channels, Chris Matthews and all that. If you say something against evolution, they talk about you like you crazy. They don't even believe in the Creator. These cats is not Americans. They're Romans squatting in America. They're sucking your resources dry just like they did Africa, just like they doing in China. Rome has sucked the resources of the whole world on purpose so that everybody's poor, destitute, brokenhearted, in the Stone Age, worshiping rocks, trees, water, spirits of bears, badgers, raccoons, rats. Anything but the Creator. Worship everything. Worship a slug. Worship an ant. Worship beetle dung. It's an actual religion. It is. It's called pantheism. Oh, y'all think I'm playing? Yes. And when your Pope Francis talks about renewing and taking care of the planet, he's a pantheist. He's talking pantheism talk. I mean, if y'all would just read, I don't know how y'all... Listen, to whom much is given, much is required. Your second problem, Christianity and the world, is you're robbing God. This message is to atheists and Buddhists and all of y'all as well. Because y'all think y'all worshiping a deity, but it's Satan. Y'all don't want to worship Satan, so you're being deceived as well. Buddha and all of Satan. Every Hinduism, every deity that you worship is Satan, and it's not the creator. Come out of Babylon. Whom much is given, much is required. So, told you. Principle of repetition and enlargement. That principle says this in Ecclesiastes 3:15-17. This is what the text says. Whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. Christ said, like in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Like in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. So whatever is has already been. And what will be has been before. So what's going to happen tomorrow and in the future, you can know that there's going to be an exodus. I'm preparing you for the final exodus. Right? The same exact exodus experience that the children of Israel went through, going from Egypt into the promised land. We are about to go through that, going from earth to heaven. And it says God will call the past to account. This blood audit, everything that this world is doing against God, you have to account for. So please come out of Babylon. Like I said, I'm going to show you these born-again Christians, the masquerade that these born-again Christians are doing to deceive you on purpose.
In the US, 77% of Americans describe themselves as Christian. But what's known as the Christian right makes up 15% of the electorate. They're a loose coalition of Christian political groups, mainly evangelicals and Catholics. They strongly support socially conservative policies, and they seek to apply religious teachings to politics.
You're about to see startling evidence that Crowley had as much influence on the world with his sex revolution as he did with the drug revolution. Aleister Crowley knew that if he was to establish a new age of Antichrist, he would have to destroy God's design for family, consisting of men and women as husband and wife. Crowley therefore declared in his book Magic Without Tears that family was public enemy number one. Crowley, who was out to destroy the family, said this, quote, "Think what horrid images it evokes from the mind. Not only Victorian, wherever the family has been strong, it has always been an engine of tyranny. Curse them. They are always in the way. To the performance of this work, speaking of the new age, the nearest obstacle and the most obvious is the family." Often seen marching in homosexual parades is a sexually deviant group NAMBLA, some of whose members are associated with the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Like Crowley, NAMBLA emphasized homosexual sex, including sex with little boys. NAMBLA actually stands for North American Man-Boy Love Association. Sadly, many homosexuals are preying on the little children. In fact, nearly 60% of homosexuals claim that they were molested by another homosexual while they were children. Crowleyite and founder of the modern gay movement, Harry Hay, is seen here marching in a parade wearing a sign promoting the North American Man-Boy Love Association.
I got raped when I was 11, Twist. I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, because it's just, ooh, Lil Wayne's just too good.
I loved it. I loved it. I ain't never pressed charges. I'm gonna do you like Baby them did me. Yeah. I'll never forget that day. Yeah, no, they was all in the kitchen. I was scared. It was cool. There was about this many niggas in the I never forget the word. Suck la wine la dick.
I'm gonna say my chorus. Running to all the dicks, like Forrest. I hate niggas, that's not true. They ask me what block I live on, I said on your dick, between your balls. Okay, I said I'm sucking your dick, your balls in my face like Kobe. Little nigga, I be sucking your dick and y'all don't even know me. Yo, I said I'm sucking on your dick. In prison, I'm the warden. You already know my legs open faster than Jordan. Sucking on the dick fast, I never do it slow. Everybody know because my job is to blow, and my blows is to job. Like I'm sucking on your knob, and I'm sucking on your cock. It's like corn on the cob. Toughin', and my neck crazy. I suck your dick, then I really call KD. But lately, I've been sucking dick, and y'all wanna smell? I'm really let that smell. And look, Drake voice. Started from the dick, now I'm here. Yeah. Started from the dick, now I'm sucking on your pubic hair. Started from the dick, now I'm here. Started from the dick, now I'm sucking. Then I grab his mouth.
If we're not involved as Christians, then we'll be ruled by the ungodly.
Tamara Scott is the Iowa Director of Concerned Women for America.
They believed Christian principles produced a civilized society.
She's been called a kingmaker in Iowa Republican politics.
Law may punish crime. It comes up with the penalties for crime, but the Bible prevents crime.
And I take my role very seriously. I'm so grateful for the gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. And that is something that I want to preserve for my children to be able to share with others freely and openly in their future when they grow up. And so I guess that's probably why I got involved. Sure. And the more I learned about our country, the more I learned about the faith of our forefathers. It's not that we're smarter than any other people. I think it's because, as the Bible says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And I think He's blessed us.
They're a loose coalition of Christian political groups, mainly evangelicals and Catholics. They strongly support socially conservative policies, and they seek to apply religious teachings to politics.
I've spoken of 1,000 points of light, of all the community organizations that are spread like stars throughout the nation doing good.
What's interesting is that term, 1,000 points of light, is actually a Masonic term. And what you're seeing here is an actual Masonic symbol. And you see the compass actually is the base of the pyramid that we looked at on their seal. You see the capstone at the top, the all-seeing eye, and the illumination coming out of it. Because what it actually means is to reach the final illumination of man. If you will study the Masonic order, one of their main goals, or one of the main goals for a Mason to reach, is that final illumination, where you can become a god. And no wonder, because the god of the Masonic order is Lucifer.
Power of that mobilized base wasn't lost on conservative politicians like George W. Bush, himself born again.
Union Banking Corporation was liquidated by the U.S. government, and Prescott Bush received $1.5 million for his holdings in his Nazi business, and that was the beginning of the Bush family fortune for all intents and purposes. George Bush takes his inspiration from what he learned in Skull and Bones and from the Thule Society that Hitler and Goebbels and Goring cut their teeth in, Bohemian Grove, these evil organizations that perpetrate the ugly things that these criminals are doing to this country, for which they must be held accountable.
They are the most violent, dirtiest people on the face of the earth. Somewhere Americans are going to have to take their country back and start finding out who are these people. Who are these people we call our representatives, the Bushes. George Bush, the president, his father, went around the country talking about a new world order. The people who are running this country from behind the scenes do not care a thing about Americans or bloodshed anywhere.
What's happening all around you in a very simple way?
Hedonism. People murdering their babies. Children shooting each other in a school. Parents putting their sexual fetishes above the needs of their little children. The attempt to redefine marriage and spending money you don't have and destroying the economy. taking people and addicting them to government handouts, enslaving them.
The idea of small government in the Christian rights message has always been there, but it's also one that overlaps substantially with a newer political force in the U.S., the Tea Party.
And everything that that man just described is the conservative, right-wing, Christian evangelical Tea Party. From George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan, even dating back to Richard Nixon. Hedonism, enslaving people, killing babies. Yes, these are the individuals that sacrifice to Molech every year. You're about to see it. Everything he described is the platform of the Republican Party. Spending money you don't have. So they give to the rich. Reagan's trickle-down economics. Trickle down. Cut all programs to the poor. Give everything. Give all of the subsidies. Give all of the bailouts. Give all of the tax breaks, tax cuts. Give everything to the rich. Make the rich get rich, rich, and let the crumbs from their table trickle down economically to the bottom. And if it wasn't for the President Clinton era in between the Bushes, our economy, we would have been back in a Great Depression. If it wasn't for President Barack Obama after George Bush and the financial crisis too big to fail, we would have been back in a Great Depression. Everything he described is the hedonism and the enslaving of America and killing people and everything. That is the Republican, conservative, born-again Christian platform of the Tea Party, evangelicals, and Roman Catholics. And I'm going to prove it to you by showing them in action in their hidden secret society occult parties right now. That charade, that Hollywood charade, they get in front of the cameras and they talk all high and mighty. Now let me show you how they really get down behind closed doors.
And what you're looking at here, staggeringly, is a group of people, some of the most famous people in America, in long gowns. Behind them there, you see a 40-foot stone owl. And there's the fire between them, next to the lake at Bohemian Grove. Now, one might wonder, understandably, why the people that run the banking, political, economic system and the media in America should be dressed in long robes, doing a ceremony to a 40-foot stone owl. I think we should be told.
And no doubt you'll be hearing about all the differences between John Kerry and George W. Bush. But we've discovered they do have something in common. During their respective college days at Yale, they both belonged to a group called Skull and Bones.
I have exposed myself to every form of disease, accident, and violence. I have driven myself to delight in dirty and disgusting debauches, and to devour human excrements and human flesh. I have mastered every mode of my mind, and made myself a morality more severe than any other in the world. 1,000 years from now, the world will be sitting in the sunset of Crowleyanity.
One of the early roots of the modern Christmas character Santa Claus was actually the god Molech, or Chemosh. Every December 25th on the ancient calendar, this is recorded in the Bible too, a public child mass or sacrifice was held. The head priest would stoke this iron image of the enthroned Molech with wood and burning pitch, and they turn it into this giant glowing red furnace. And then the people, they'd take and make a long list of the desires that they wanted, and they'd recite them to their god of prosperity, just before they put their infant children into the red-hot lap of the glowing red god. And he was wearing a Phrygian cap, too, just like Santa Claus, that Phrygian cap. That was one of the caps on the statues that they had there, too. A very interesting similarity. That's actually the roots of the Santa Claus character kind of sick. The priests would interpret revelations through the screaming of the burning babies. So they'd get these revelations from their God through the screams of these babies.